there, welcome to Wake Up to the Bible. I'm Daniel Kaplan. I'm here with my father, Dr. Kaplan. Together we're going through the books of the Bible, Genesis through Deuteronomy, over the course of this year, a little bit every day. Today we're going to be reading Genesis 31:43 through 32:3, and I'll be reading from the Robert Alter translation, and then we will discuss what we read at the end. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, and the sons are my sons, and the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine. Yet for my daughters, what can I do now, or for the sons whom they bore? And so come, let us make a pact, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." And Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones." And they fetched stones and made a mound, and they ate there on the mound. And Laban called it Yeger Sahadutha, and Jacob called it Gal-ed. And Laban said, "This mound is witness between you and me this day." Therefore its name was called Gal-ed and Mizpah, for he said, "May the Lord look out between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. Should you abuse my daughters, and should you take wives besides my daughters, though no one else is present, see, God is witness between you and me." And Laban said to Jacob, "Look, this mound, and look, the pillar that I cast up between you and me. Witness be the mound and witness the pillar, that I will not cross over to you past this mound, and you will not cross over past this mound, and past this pillar for harm. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their fathers, judge between us." And Jacob swore by the terror of his father Isaac. And Jacob offered sacrifice on the height, and called to kinsmen to eat bread, and they ate bread, and passed the night on the height. Sorry, I have to go to the next chapter. And Laban rose early in the morning, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them. And Laban went off and returned to his place. And Jacob had gone on his way, and messengers of God accosted him. And Jacob said when he saw them, "This is God's camp." And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. All right, and that's the end of that. All right, so this is the dramatic conclusion where they build a mound and they make a pact with each other. And you have that pillar again, right? So we had the pillar at the beginning of this segment, this Torah portion segment, right? You have a pillar at the beginning, a pillar at the end. It's this nice little symmetry there. What kind of stuff do you get out of this segment?
Laban was an Aramean or Syrian, and he spoke Aramaic. Later on, that language in modern times it was known as Syriac, but he spoke Aramaic, and so and the Aramaic alphabet is the same one that can be used for Hebrew. So the Bible is written in the Old Testament in Hebrew and Aramaic, but the alphabet is actually Aramaic alphabet. There's an older Hebrew alphabet that you could see in museums and so on, or if you see the Cecil B. DeMille movie, The Ten Commandments, they use that Paleo Hebrew Canaanite alphabet. But eventually, for 2,500 years, the Jews have used the Aramaic alphabet, and most of the Bible is in Hebrew. But once in a while you come up with Aramaic, and here's one of those times. Laban called the place Yegar Sahadutha, that's Aramaic. And then Jacob called it Gal-ed, that's Hebrew. So you see, they're not the same language.
No.
They're related, they're Semitic languages, but not the same. So it means heap of witness. Yegar Sahadutha is the Aramaic, and Gal-ed is the Hebrew. And this seems to be taking place in the area today we call the Golan Heights. And then Mitzpah is based upon the word, to watch. And so you have, may the eternal watch between you and me, but Laban asserts himself, more or less in verse 43. Really, all of this is mine.
Right.
He's still, justifying himself and look, but I'm backing down.
Yeah.
And he wants to make sure, I guess, that later on, if Jacob maybe is able to acquire some kind of force, that he doesn't come and take revenge.
Yeah.
So they make a pact here, and so that you stay in your area north of the border, I'll stay south of the border, and they do make this pact.
Yeah.
And the eating together is part of what happens when you make a pact like that. Having a common meal is part of it.
Yeah.
and he swore by it says by the God of his ancestors,
Hmm.
and he offered a sacrifice, a very solemn occasion, and so indeed this peace lasted. You don't hear any more about any trouble.
Yeah. Well, one stipulation is that he can't marry anybody else,
That's
which he
interesting.
doesn't do. So he does fulfill that. Um, but it is interesting that he would even suspect that that's potentially something that he would do. But I mean, he is going to a new area. Sometimes people just for peacemaking processes or things like that might do something like that. Especially in that culture, it was common.
It's
So
it's interesting also that it is true that even after Rachel dies, he doesn't take in any other
no,
women, and it maybe Laban felt like,
but we don't know specifically when Leia dies, right?
yeah, that's true. Uh,
Yeah,
later on I'll have more to say about that, but
yeah.
what occurs to me is maybe uh, there's something. I'm not sure if there's anything in it for him. Maybe there would be. Maybe if Jacob were to have died before the wives, maybe somehow Laban would have gotten something back.
It could be kind of an inheritance thing, kind of like in Ruth, where he doesn't want it getting mixed up. He doesn't want, he wants to keep it within the. He's thinking still in that kind of
Yeah,
transactional way. So he's like, I don't want any of your wealth going to some random people. I want this
right.
all to stay in the family.
Yeah,
Well, fair enough.
yeah,
That's
right,
reasonable.
right.
I'm kind of with Laban on this one.
No, family. No, family is
Family is important.
family is quite critical throughout the
Yeah.
Bible. Yeah.
I mean, it says in the New Testament that person doesn't provide for their household is worse than an unbeliever. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
something you have to keep in mind.
Oh yeah.
Family matters.
Right. Right.
Um, but there was something else that came to mind. Oh yeah, one thing that is interesting though is this multilingual aspect of it and the multiple names and things like that. Because people do get sometimes very bent out of shape over language and names and things like that. But I just don't feel like if you look at the Bible, that's the example you get. You often get that people have multiple names, there's multiple definitions, there's multiple languages going on. The idea that there's like this uniform, this is the defining characteristic and the concept must be defined in this one specific way. I just don't see that biblically. That doesn't seem to be the way the text approaches things at all. It seems much more about what's actually true, which is that as soon as you distill something into a concept, you've limited it. And so why be so rigid? Why not apply multiple labels to a concept so that you can explore it better, which is linguistically smarter, and I feel is how the Bible tends to approach
And the
things.
Bible is in three languages: a language of the descendants of Ham, which is Hebrew, because it originally is a Canaanite language,
Yeah,
and then a language of the descendants of Shem, which is Aramaic. Aram was a descendant of Shem,
right.
and then the Greek, which the Greeks are descendants of Japheth.
Yeah.
So the Bible itself is in three languages, and there are Egyptian terms in the Bible
Yep.
as well.
Right. But I mean, just the way it says here, it says the name was called Galed and Mizpah. It's like, okay, it's not like,
Right, two
it's
Hebrew names.
right.
Right,
It's not even like, right. It's not even like they're bent out of shape that it's like we've defined it as this and
right, right,
therefore no other. Some people really get way bent out of shape over naming in the Bible because there is significance. But I think the idea that it's
right.
significant and dogmatically rigid towards one thing is not really what you see over and over again.
No, more than one name is all through a lot of cases.
Yeah,
Yeah, right,
right.
right,
Well, even in the New Testament, you have it says, his name will be Emmanuel, and then his name will be Jesus, and then you have like
right,
Peter and Simon. It's
right,
just there's just so many names. It's like
right.
names are all over the place. Like because again, as soon as you said this is the defining label for this concept, you've limited it to that, and I don't feel like the Bible tends to do that. It tends to be much more nuanced and sophisticated, to be frank.
Now Jacob was met by angels,
Yes.
and in verse
I
30.
like how he says it. They accosted him. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
well, that's how he renders it. I
Oh,
don't know
really?
what does it say with yours in verse
Met
2.
him.
Yeah, accosted sounds so much more
Okay.
aggressive.
Well, I would assume the word is pagash, but I haven't. This morning I didn't look at it.
You didn't just do your
But
daily reading of Genesis 32
pagash
too.
is normally I would say it's pagash, but you could look at maybe we could look it up later. But
I'll look it up right now.
all
Go ahead.
right. But anyway, it's interesting. We used to have, again, going back to the Chabad movement. they used to have something called Pagisha im Chabad, which they translated as encounter with Chabad. And he's so okay. Vayomer Yaakov.
I feel like this is different.
No, that's a different verse. You have to go to verse 1.
I guess it's separated differently.
Yeah, you're in verse 2. There's verse 1. Okay. Okay, Vayakov.
It's right here.
Okay. No, it is. Oh no, it's Paga. Yeah, that's a better. Yeah, accosted and maybe better there.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 Okay, it's not Pagash. It's Paga. It's a different word.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Pega means pain.
Yeah.
So accosted maybe we have a saying in Hebrew.
I mean, he's going to do the wrestling not too long from now, so
Right.
it's a little bit of
There
it's ramping up the tension.
There you go. No, we have a saying in Hebrew, "Ein rega b'li pega." There's no moment without pain, and so so the word
It's so like
accosted may be
so like melancholy in Hebraic. I love it.
so, so Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him, or met him rather aggressively, evidently. Yeah. All right. But when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp."
Right.
So maybe the idea is that it was a sudden thing that costed him in the sense of, oh wow, it was a sudden thing that was maybe somewhat.
I feel like it's kind of not
taking him
threatening,
aback.
but like imposing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
making it more dramatic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he reacts dramatically.
Right.
And so he calls the place Machanaim, which means two camps. So evidently, I've got my retinue, I've got my camp, and then these are the angels' camp.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two camps here: the angelic and the human. That seems to be the thought here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Robert Alter used the conventional division used in Hebrew Bibles. That's why it's different. The New King James is the first verse. I have a different one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Once in a while, there's differences in the Hebrew Bible in terms of chapter. For example, Malachi doesn't have a fourth chapter in Hebrew; just the third chapter just keeps going. And Joel is different too.
Mm-hmm.
There's some differences here and there.
Yeah. Now it's interesting because it says Laban rose early in the morning and kissed his sons and his daughters, and some people say that that's an omission, that he did not. It specifically makes a point that he didn't kiss Jacob, right? Because it says the sons and the daughters, and Jacob is not included. So maybe it's possible.
That's a good point.
And bless them. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, again, I'm just focused on my family. You're the pariah. I'm just send you on your way.
He does what's proper, but no more than
right.
that.
Yeah. Right. So that does seem pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else come to mind? As we
no, we're going to have later on. We'll get to the historic wrestling match.
Yes, tomorrow. I don't think it's tomorrow. I think it'll be a couple. Yeah, because we probably have a little bit. We have a little bit more to go.
We've concluded this parasha.
Yes, we concluded this weekly portion. Next week we'll get into that and into pre-incarnate Jesus Christ and all kinds of fun discussions. Right? It'll be fun. We'll get into some theology. All right. So anyway, if you're interested in hearing all of that, please like, subscribe, hit the bell, tell your friends, ring up your neighbors. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And we'll read the law together. We'll see you next time.